Welcome to the Pursue Your Spark podcast. We bring you the best tips and solutions in fitness and nutrition to lead a healthy lifestyle. This is the podcast that shows you how you can unlock your potential and why it matters to ignite the spark in your life. And now your host, Heike Yates. Well, hello there and welcome to another episode of the Pursue Your Spark podcast. I'm your host, Heike Yates, but you know that already. Thank you so much for listening in and spending some time with me today. When I prepare my podcasts, I always visualize that I'm talking directly to you right here in my office. Nope, I don't have a recording studio just yet, but I'm working on it. So let's get started. In today's episode number 20, I'm bringing back the empty nest syndrome, episode 5, because it was hugely popular. Since we're talking about new beginnings this month, it was important to start with something that many women are really struggling with. A new beginning can be anything that impacts your life and requires you to change gears and perhaps stops you in your tracks. This change requires us to think about how to move forward without being left behind or even leaving ourselves behind. In today's podcast, I will share my tips and strategies on how you can begin anew after the nest is empty. But before we get started, I wanted to tell you that I have a surprise announcement for you at the end of today's podcast. So are you ready to dive in? If you're a parent, you know about the empty nest syndrome. So if you're not a parent, then today's episode may not be for you. So all parents, listen up. Why do we feel that we have an empty nest suddenly when the kids are leaving? You know, it is difficult when you raise your kids for many years and suddenly the house is empty and you literally feel lonely. There's nobody there other than potentially a significant others if you're married. And you don't feel like you're not really involved in their lives anymore. I'm sure you can relate to that. As a parent, suddenly there's nothing, there's emptiness, and nobody talks back and nobody asks you to do stuff for them. So when my oldest son, Jesse, left for college, so he's 30, almost 30 by now. So he left for college, and I still have my quote unquote little one, my daughter, who's about 3.5 years younger than he is at home. But he left for college, and it was literally drop him off in Baltimore in Maryland at the college, and he took his stuff and he left and he was just gone. But it didn't feel as empty because I still have my little one there. Here's the funny part about the story. So I'm assuming I dropped my oldest one off at college and he's gone, he's doing his own thing, but little did I know that he too must have felt some separation or his own emptiness syndrome, because lo and behold, Jesse would come back every week. Jesse had excuses that, this week he needed to wash his laundry. The next week he needed something from the house. So every week he kept coming back for quite a while and with all kinds of excuses. And I asked him whether or not he needed change to wash his laundry up in Baltimore. And he said, Mom, it's much cheaper if I wash it here with you. But years later, I said, listen, why'd you keep coming back? And he said, Mom, honestly, I was so much happier being accepted at a college close to home and not like he initially thought in California, because I really wanted to be home. I was not ready to embrace college the way I thought, the way things would go. And so you see, not only are we impacted by the empty nest syndrome, so are our kids, whether they like to admit it or not. Well, how does the empty nest syndrome impact us, or many of us? There is that sense of loss, like I said earlier or mentioned earlier, is our kids leave and suddenly
you are not needed as much. They don't ask you for advice. They don't say or barge in the door and go, "Hey, Mom, what you making for dinner?" You are on your own, or you're on your own with your spouse. So somebody is just gone that needed you for many, many years, and suddenly they don't need you as much anymore. It's a really difficult situation for many of us. And some women I talk to, they feel that they're in an identity crisis. They have been mom for 18 years, and suddenly the role of mom is gone. And so they're spinning in place, trying to figure out, what do I do next? Because our prime focus had been our children or our child at this point. So you're not needed. Your identity is out the window. So you're scratching your head, wondering what to do next. Relationships are impacted by this empty nest syndrome quite a bit. Visualize or think about that if you and your spouse were raising one or two children, and the focus for both of you has gone to the kids. It starts with from changing the diapers to finding the daycare center to finding a good school. Then once they're in school, you drive around and you go to soccer practice, to dance recitals, to all these extracurricular, not exercises, but extracurricular activities that you signed your kid up for, or kids. And so there's very little time to spend with your spouse, because one may drive to soccer, the other one drives to the recital. And very little time is spent eating dinner together or spending personal time together, because there's always somebody in the house, and you know what I mean. There's very little sexy time that is private, and even on vacations, they're always with you. So the prime focus has become them, which it should be, because you're their parent, you're their caretaker, you're the person they look up to as a role model, and the person that they admire for who you are, and maybe want to become just the person that you are. And so with that, you're losing touch with your significant other. The other person is just as busy as you, maybe making money, being outside of the house working, while in my case, I was the person that stayed home with the kids. So when I decided to stop working, I decided that, or we, my husband, my first husband and I decided that we're going to go and make sure that we don't have a nanny. My job was really not something I was crazy about going back. And I was glad to be out of an office and be able to boogie around with my kids. But you lose that sense of, you don't make money. You lose that sense of freedom that you had before the children. And it is really difficult to overcome that and make a unit out of your relationship again if you tend to neglect it. However, current research shows that this moving out and that suddenly having more time seems to be, for some parents, just the right ticket. And what I found is, after my kids moved on, both of them, I got back into traveling with my husband. My passion has always been to see the world, and much of it. And for long periods of time, I'm a European, so I want to at least go for 2 weeks somewhere cool in this world and enjoy the tradition in that country, eat the food, and see as much as I can. And that now gives me more time with my significant others. I remarried, and my now husband is, just as much as I do, a travel bug, and we love to spend time together now that it's just the two of us. And we just love it. So there's, again, so you're looking at different scenarios and how you address not having this empty nest syndrome happening and taking over. And I'm sure that my mom felt the same way I felt when my kids moved out. I moved away from Germany about 32 years ago. It's a long time. I was 23 at that time, and I had originally just planned to be here for a couple of years, and that's what my mom thought too. I would be back in a jiffy, and we would hang out like we used to, go out to dinners, cook together, and just spend more time together. But what happened was that I ended up staying here and loving it so much that I started living here, raising my kids here, and we're missing out on our time together. And so you can compare as a coping strategy what happened to you and what happens to your kids. And I'm sure you can relate. I can now so much more relate to my mom as she thinking back and how she must have missed me and had to move forward with your life. Another good coping strategy with the empty nest syndrome is stay in touch with your kids. My mom and I missed that boat a little bit. We just lived our lives in different countries and did not really make an effort to call each other more often or write. Now, I have remedied that situation with my kids. I'm making an effort. I text them. I WhatsApp them, as my kids live in totally different parts of the world now. But I want to stay in touch. I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear their stories. And when my son then later on moved out to San Francisco, or the West Coast initially, but to San Francisco in the end, I called and I was afraid that I would bother him. And he said, Mom, you know what? I would tell you if you bother me. And then you just have to wait till I have a little bit of time so I can talk to you then. But he encouraged me to stay in touch as well. So I think that's a super important point, that you relate to their feelings and they can relate to you, but you have to tell them how you feel and listen to their stories, how they feel, what their adventures are, and enjoy their life through this channel, even though they're not close, right next to you. In some cases, this coping strategy may be finding professional help. You may have dug yourself in an emotional hole that you just somehow can't climb out no matter what you try, how you try to cope with everything. And a positive outlook is definitely something that I am really, really encouraging. Think of it, they're moving away, as a good thing. I've raised my children to move on in the world, to become this person that I raised them to be, successful, happy, and enjoying life just the way as you are, hopefully looking towards that part of your life. So positivity, positivity, positivity.
You are ready to change your life but lack confidence to take the first steps towards your fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle goals because you don't know where to start, or you understand the basic principles of a healthy lifestyle but you feel overwhelmed and need a step-by-step action plan to help you get started, or you feel like you're spinning in place and you're ready for a fitness lifestyle overhaul to achieve results that last. Does that sound familiar? Then I have a gift waiting for you at heikeyates.com. Go get it right now and get started towards your health and fitness goals today. I can't wait to see you there.
Now, can you prevent the empty nest syndrome? You know, there's maybe a yes and a no. When the first one leaves, it's not that bad because you got number two still puttering around. And like in my case, my daughter Melanie, was here with me for a whole bunch of years, and that's another problem. She kept moving in and moving out, moving in, moving out. And so each time I had to separate myself emotionally from her. Have you experienced that? So they moved to, in my case, my daughter Melanie moved to Nashville, and I'm like, yay, okay, she's good, she's happy, she found a place where she potentially would like to move to. 2 years later, she moved back in. She changed her mind, and absolutely, we're here for her. We're her nest that she can always come back to and regroup and make her new plans. But as a mom, I got to tell you, that's hard. And I did feel that I went back to that being mom thing. You know what I mean? I will solve your problems for you. Oh, of course, I will make lunch. Of course, I'll go to the grocery store for you. Oh, just tell me all those things that you need to get done that you don't have time to do. I totally will do them. Oh my goodness, I had to really hold back and not go back into mommy mode, as I call it. And so as they keep moving in and out, and she just recently moved to Northern Ireland for God knows how long she's going to be there, I hope that she finds the happiness that she's looking for. But when number 2 leaves, it can be a challenge. It can be a challenge because there's nobody there to care for other than yourself. Super important. Let's don't forget about ourselves, but we get to that in a little while. And your significant other. It is about you, your happiness, your fulfillment in life. And I feel that the happier I am, the happier my kids feel, the happier my kids know I am, and they worry less about me. And one thing my daughter said when she moved out for, I call it the 100th time, although it's not true, but she moved out again, and she's like, so Mom, when I'm moving out now, what are you going to do? She looked at me and she says, oh, I know what you're going to do. You got it covered. So here are my 3 empty nest survival tips that have really worked with me, and I hope that you can apply those survival tips for your life as well. Number 1, stay involved in your community. What do I mean by that? Staying involved in your community. I am a runner. A big part of my life is associated with running or triathlon in my spare time. So I stayed involved with my running community. I signed up for new running classes, not classes, but running training courses. That's the word I'm looking for. Training courses, meaning, we all train in the winter half marathon program to run a trail marathon in the spring. That meant that twice a week, I would meet a certain group of people at different places. We run together, we talk, we have fun, we share our stories. We share our stories about our children and our empty nests, because many of us are, like I am, in the later stages of life. And the people that are not are listening very closely, as I found out, and are very interested in how things evolve as the kids get older. So my running community has been my support, my go-to group, and also my outlet. And over these years, as my kids moved away, I became a certified running coach to help others become better runners, answer their questions. And I coached for quite a while with the Montgomery County Road Runners Club here in Maryland, helping other runners be better runners and stay injury-free. So I took this on as my community. Number 2 would be taking on a new challenge, whether it's professional or a personal challenge. And with this, what I have started doing is I've created Pursue Your Spark that you're listening to. So pursue your spark has to do with that I want to have freedom of location. I have a beautiful small studio here in Maryland that I see people one-on-one, and I've dabbled a little bit in the online branding, in the online business for training, nutrition, personal training, and mindset changes, and support women and men in my different brands. But Pursue Your Spark is really about women that want to pursue the spark in their life, that are getting older, that are dealing with kids leaving, aging, not being as fit, belly fat, you name it. But I wanted to do this from a place of fulfillment and happiness, and being able to visit my son in San Francisco and still serve my community has been my goal for these last few years. And I love it. I'm just loving being able to reach more people like you now through my podcast, which is not that old. So think of what you can take on or would like to take on. It could be simply stepping up in your business, in your niche of work, to take on a new role. The other number 3 from the Empty Nest Survival Kit is you got extra cash, baby. Ha! College is paid for. You got some extra cash lying around to put it to good use. Either, which we're doing, we have remodeled our basement and still work on it quite a while. Mostly my husband. I'm the person who chooses colors and decoration items, so I'm not too much of a home builder person. But some of that extra money goes towards our travel. So trips that we previously couldn't afford are now part of our expense account, and we are loving it. Now, I took a little bit of that just for me, and I am changing the way my exterior, I may want to call it. So 3 empty nest survival tips. Number 1, stay involved in your community. Number 2, take on a new challenge. The sky is the limit. So anything goes, whether it could be in your church, in your business. Like I said, the sky is the limit. Now, you got extra cash. Plan for it. You don't have to invest it. And here's one of my recommendations. Don't save it for the kids. They're making their own money. They're out there busting their booty to make a living, and use the money for good use for yourself and your spouse. One thing I want to close with today is enjoy your kids' company and enjoy your life. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed seeing my kids become these independent, strong people that make cool choices in their lives. And I can see myself in their choices and in their lives, how they live their life, and what I've instilled in them, the values. I couldn't be, here she goes, a much prouder mom. Seriously, I'm just digging and loving my kids. And I'm glad that they are as successful as they are. And I want to pat myself on the back for that. I am part of their success. So maybe those 3 empty nest survival tips work for you. I'd love to hear if they do.
So there you have it. As promised, here's my surprise. Our next guest on the Pursue Your Spark podcast is my dear friend Sherry Morris. She's the creator of Dear Divorce Coach. Sherry will be sharing her tips and strategies on how you can protect your marriage or your relationship with your partner from perhaps ending in separation or divorce. Don't miss out on this one if you're struggling in your relationship. So that's it for today. Until next time, and thank you for listening. Ciao.